I said as much. What year was that? It's, let me see, a decade and a half ago, 2011, in my book After America, I discussed and I said that the biggest structural defect in the United States of America was the education system. It impacts everything. I don't believe, for example, when you notice when education is talked about, it's always about extending and prolonging it. You know, they say, well, oh yes, there are problems, but what we need to do is to have universal PhDs for all, right? Which means that for the failure to give people a don't forget, as I always quote, in 1940, the average American had an 8th grade education. That's to say the majority of the country left school at 13. That's the America that won the Second World War. So people who wonder, if it weren't for us, you'd be speaking German. Yeah, actually, it was the 8th graders who presided over that America. Now it's 28th grade America and the Afghan War, right? So, and there's a reason for that, because if you haven't given people a basic education by 8th grade, you're not going to be able to do it by keeping them in school till 28th grade. And it has other impacts too. I mean, the biggest impact is this, that if you are able to finish your education by 13 or 16 or 18, or a compressed, effective area of scholarship that enables you to leave university with a bachelor's degree at the age of 21, at that point, you're a grown-up, and you do grown-up things like get married and have children and buy a house. And the more you prolong the bollocks of public education, oh yeah, it's not 13 or 16 or 18, now it's 27, 34, whatever. You prolong. People are surprised now that America has joined Europe in deathbed demographics. Well, why do you think that is? It's one thing to complete your 3-year bachelor's by the age of 21, and then to decide you're going to get married and buy your first house at 23 and have a couple of kids and whatever. The longer you leave it, the less likely that is to happen before you're 35, 40, whatever. So I'm not even talking about the what Fred Jones calls the indoctrination here. I'm just talking about the fact that they can't even indoctrinate you in a timely fashion. You know, if they were to say, okay, we're going to finish the indoctrination by 8th grade, that would at least demonstrate an ability to have efficient, fast-tracked indoctrination. But the fact is, now it dribbles on into your late 20s and mid-30s. Like, who was the famous Kay Rush got into trouble for this because of her successful campaign to get the university to pay for free contraception. And she was 34, I think, that student. That student, still at school, 34, whatever her name was, is what healthy societies call early middle age. It's a huge structural defect, and unfortunately, people have gotten used to it, so that your productive working life is this increasingly shrinking space that fills the gap between prolonged lethargic varsity and earlier retirement. And that's the way they want to keep it, because they don't want you being out there being effective. Drew Weber says, it's just awful. It's just absolutely terrible. But we got to do, but something, here's the thing, we're all dying. All these countries, all these Western nations are dying. They're broke. Some of them are spectacularly broke. I said this in my piece for Quadrant. They're fiscally speaking, they're bankrupt. Culturally speaking, they're dead, because to go back to the indoctrination point, we spend not 8 grades, but 28 grades, teaching our children to hate their entire civilizational inheritance. Right? So at best, they emerge in a vacuum. My kid, I noticed this years ago when my own kids were in school, because my youngest came back once and responded to something I said by saying you're a regular Thomas Jefferson. And I was impressed, not that he knew Thomas Jefferson, but that somebody in his totally mediocre grade school had taught him about Thomas Jefferson. And then he said to me, "Oh no, Dad, it's just a line I heard on Looney Tunes." I think Bugs Bunny said it to Elmer Fudd or whatever. So people are... why would you be surprised that every healthy society is a compact between the present and the past and the future? And if you break that compact between the present and the past, you won't have a future, because you just leave... Well, why do people want something else? So if you tell them that your country's the most racist country that's ever existed, why would you be surprised that instead they develop love of climate change science or whatever? People want something. And instead, in this awful, crapped-out public education system, in American schools, American children are taught to hate America. Canadian schools, Canadian children are taught to hate Canada. UK schools, UK children are taught to hate the UK. It's different, particularly as you move east in continental Europe, but the same pathologies are nesting there. Mark Jensen says, "Are the walls tumbling